My life had really spun out of control by the time that I was in the 8th grade. My life began in Cincinnati. My mother was a prostitute who had had 7 different children by 7 different men. She would leave me for days on end by myself as an infant, as a small infant. From time to time, she would get a babysitter, and apparently a great deal of abuse went on because by the time I was 2, I had to have eye surgery to even be able to see. I've been told that one babysitter found me in a garbage dumpster in Cincinnati. My mother eventually gave me to a babysitter who gave me to the Robinsons. Even though that was a great step up, because I probably would not have lived very long staying with my natural mother at the rate things were going. The Robinsons was a little dysfunctional. Mr. Robinson was a bad alcoholic, and Mrs. Robinson was a drug head. And so it was a pretty dysfunctional family. I started doing drugs my 4th grade year, my first year in the 4th grade. Not soon after that, I started a little gang in Cincinnati. We would do a lot of small mischief things. We would go to different neighborhoods and steal bicycles, and I actually had a chop shop in my garage, and we would change the handlebars and paint them and sell them to get enough money to buy a pot or beer or whatever we could get. We'd throw rocks at police cars, steal out of stores, just stupid, silly, immature, delinquent nonsense. It didn't take me too long, though, to kind of get bored with those things. And so I left that gang and joined the older street gang in Cincinnati, in my neighborhood. Camp Washington is where I was raised at. And being the youngest gang member, every single day I had to prove myself to the older gang members. And when I say older, I'm talking 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24-year-olds. My nickname was the Little Alky because it wasn't uncommon to find me passed out in the gutter, someone's back porch, on a pair of steps, just wherever. It was very easy in Cincinnati at that time in my neighborhood. I could walk into most of the bars in my neighborhood, and there was over 40 bars on Coleraine Avenue in my neighborhood at that time in the 70s. It was easy for me to walk into a bar and get a bartender to give me something to drink because they all knew who I was, and it was drugs was just rampant. I was selling drugs in the school system. My life was really spinning out of control. I started using narcotics. The deeper into drugs I got, the more money I had to get and had to generate in order to keep my habit up. One evening, Mr. Robinson told me to stay inside. It was on a Saturday evening, and but he was drinking, so I knew that he was going to pass out pretty soon. As soon as he passed out, I hit the streets, which I did every day, basically. A couple hours later, in the meantime, I had ran into one of the gang members, and we were riding around in his car and drinking. And a couple hours later, just out of nowhere, Mr. Robinson stepped in front of the car, stopped the car, pulled the driver out of the car, and pistol whipped him and put him into a coma that lasted 4 months. Once that happened, we knew that the gang was going to retaliate against us. So Mr. Robinson called his brothers from eastern Kentucky, actually from some from Clay County and elsewhere that they were living, to come to Cincinnati, and they came. So our house became a fortress for about 4 or 5 days. There were automatic shotguns, guns, shotguns, and at every door and every window waiting for the gang to retaliate. The Cincinnati police drove around our block about every 20 minutes, anticipating what was going to happen. After 4 or 5 days of that, Mr. Robinson decided for us to come to eastern Kentucky, to Laurel County, where his father was living at the time, and so we left Cincinnati. After we left Cincinnati, the gang burned our house to the ground, and so the Robinsons lost everything in that. That's when we made the front page of the Inquirer and Post. And it came out that I was selling drugs in the school system, and how big of a hoodlum I was, and how big of a punk I was. And so me going back to school in Cincinnati had pretty much ended at that time. Mrs. Robinson started trying to get me into a boarding school in the Carolinas, in Virginia. And once she began telling the story about me, the schools very quickly changed their mind, and really none of them would take me. Until she called Barkley Moore at Oneida. And Barkley didn't even, Mr. Moore did not even hesitate. He said, bring him. And so I entered Oneida on a Sunday afternoon carrying a little suitcase with about two pairs of pants and 2 shirts and a couple pairs of underwear. And I started my journey here at Oneida. When I came here, I hated this place. I despised this place. And the reason for that is because they told me that I was going to have to go to bed at night. I was used to run the streets of Cincinnati at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They told me I was going to have to get up in the morning and go to school, which is something I wasn't doing very often, except when I needed money and was going to sell drugs in school. They told me I was going to have to go to school, and in school I was going to have to learn. I was going to have to read, I was going to have to study, I was going to have to make my grades, I was going to have to do my homework, and if I didn't, they was going to bust my tail. Which happened on many occasions. They told me I was going to have to get a job after school, and I was going to have to work, and I was going to have to listen to other people, and I was going to have to do what they told me to do. They told me I was going to have to be in study hall in the evening. All of these rules. I had to go to church every single day here. I had to go to chapel and listen to some old man preach. I hated this place. I despised this place, and I despised everything about it. I had built up so many strongholds in my life. I was a young boy that was filled with rage, with anger, frustration, stemming from a lot of hurt, probably, and from a lot of other things. And the thing that began to happen to me here, was that I could not deny that these people treated me so differently. They actually cared for me. And they wanted to see me accomplish something. And when I would mess up, they would punish me, and then they'd put their arms around me, and they would love me. And I'd really never had that before. And it took a couple years for the strongholds of my life to be torn down, and for God to begin to deal with me about the sin in my life. But more importantly, the thing that I was hung on was, how could God love someone like me after all that I had done, after all the garbage that I had lived in, after all the filth that I participated in, after all the sin that I committed. How could God love me? How could God love me? And yet, every single day, the staff here reached out to me, and they loved me. And that went so far in my life. There's